tifu by accidentally dosing my entire adult family with LSD, by user Severus Snape. This happened a couple of weeks ago at Thanksgiving. My boyfriend and I recently moved into a bigger place together with a few spare bedrooms and a large kitchen, and to celebrate we decided to host Thanksgiving at our house this year. Usually all family meals are held at my aunt's house, but she recently got divorced and unfortunately had to sell the house. This year we wanted to invite everyone we could since 2020 was limited to just my parents and my boyfriend's mom. We invited my parents, BF's mom, 3 aunts of mine, 2 uncles, and 6 cousins, all between the ages of 10 to 19. We prepared for 2 days leading up to Thanksgiving. We made pretty much everything ourselves except for a few appetizers. I've recently been getting into baking, so as a treat for the adults I made some edible hard candies with a small, 10 mg, dose of THC in each candy. We had dinner early around 4 p.m. and all the kids were in the media room playing a racing game on the PlayStation. Once everyone finished their food, we asked the adults if they'd like to partake in my edible experiment, and being a California family fairly used to cannabis, everyone agreed. We had our candies and waited roughly 1 hour, and when nobody was feeling anything we decided to have another. I figured the amount of food we had just consumed plus my novice edible producing skills led to a dead batch, so I reached way back in the fridge to get the jar of store-bought gummies I had purchased months ago from a dispensary. I found the gummies, but they were in a plastic baggie instead of a jar. I assumed my boyfriend had repurposed the jar or transferred them to a bag when we moved. Every adult in the family had 1 gummy and we decided to take a little walk, but my boyfriend stayed behind to keep an eye on the kids. We left around 5:20 and started to feel our gummies around 15 minutes into the walk. The sky seemed to be a brighter shade of orange after the sunset and a few of us got the giggles. Around 30 minutes after we left the house, I got a call from my BF sounding very nervous as he asked, "Did you get these gummies from the jar or from the baggie?" I told him the baggie and received a large sigh in response. Then it hit me. We had eaten the gummies from the dispensary with friends on the night of our move. We had lots to drink that night and it totally slipped my mind. These gummies were 2 to 3 years old LSD gummies we had purchased for a music festival in 2018. My boyfriend didn't have to say anything for me to realize the enormity of the fuck up I had made. I told him to stay calm and not to let the kids leave the media room until we got home. He hid the remaining gummies in our room and I told my family we should probably head back. The next 20 to 30 minutes of our walk back were filled with laughter and lots of pit stops to examine Christmas lights, mailboxes, and trees my family members were enormously impressed by. I, on the other hand, was trying my best to figure out how to tell my parents, aunts, uncles, and soon-to-be mother-in-law that instead of a small dose of weed which they were all familiar with and used to, they were in for a 8 to 10 hour experience with good old Lucy. I decided to wait until we were home in case any of them freaked out. We arrived home and all of the family members were in stitches laughing at each other's jokes and impersonations. I asked my boyfriend for advice, but he seemed overwhelmed and just wanted to go lie down for a bit. My 19Y/0 cousin said he'd watch the kids, so I went back upstairs to join my family. I realized that as far as accidental druggings go, this was a pretty ideal situation except for the half-5 minors in the house. I took my now fully tripping family out onto the porch to sit around the fireplace and calmly informed them that they had each taken 125 micrograms of LSD instead of the 15 milligrams of THC I told them they had taken. My mom and one of my aunts started to hyperventilate a bit and my BF's mom went to find her son. I calmed my family down and they all quickly became enthralled with the fire pit and the stars, briefly interrupted by the occasional question about trip length and asking if the kids were being taken care of. They called me an idiot and I agreed with their judgment. I left them outside to enjoy the stars and went to check on the kids and my BF and his mom. The kids were all eating popcorn watching Star Wars and hardly noticed me coming in, but my oldest cousin could tell I was out of sorts and I had to clue him in. He laughed and once again asserted my idiocy and I once again conferred. He told me not to worry and that he'd put all the kids to bed and to just relax and have fun with the family. I checked in on my BF and his mom and they both started howling with laughter when they saw my defeated face enter the room. I finally started to join in the laughter, making fun of the ridiculous situation I had gotten us all into. They gave me a hug and we went out to join the rest of my family. They were all in different zones. The uncles were focused on collecting more firewood and trying my collection of whiskeys. The aunts and my mom were intently listening to each other tell stories and staring at their wine glasses. One of them was playing Candy Crush and had a huge grin on her face. My BF sat down with me on a couch and his mom joined the aunts, and the next several hours were as wonderful a family gathering I had ever experienced. We all spent hours talking and laughing and drinking, sometimes getting lost in the bathroom or kitchen but mostly spending our time outside. Everyone handled themselves incredibly well, and I think it probably led to my BFS mom feeling much more included in my family than she had before. A few people had trouble sleeping, but they just put on old I Love Lucy episodes until their trips ended and they passed out. Overall, it could have gone so much worse, and I'm so grateful that nobody got hurt or was too overwhelmed. I think the acid had lost some of its potency, which certainly worked for our benefit this time. The next morning the kids made breakfast for everyone and absolutely trashed the kitchen, but I didn't mind. We had breakfast and I received a few more jeers from my family, and they informed me that they wouldn't be imbibing in any gummies at Christmas, but it was all in good fun. TLDR, gave my family what I thought were weed gummies at Thanksgiving, turned out to be LSD. Edit. Forgot to mention that after the kids were put to bed while we were still outside by the fire, we got into impersonations, and somehow my Trump impersonation came through. Complete with hand gestures, the voice, mannerisms, and the asshole-shaped lips, I stayed in character for 45+ minutes while my family laughed and kept up their own characters. A few times the one of the kids would come out asking for something and Trump would order them back to their room. This turned into a game with the kids where they would come out to get scolded by the loud orange man inside me. Eventually I had to break character, not as easy as one would think, so that they would finally leave us tripping adults alone. TIFU by telling my GF that she is not the only beautiful woman in existence, by user BirtBird1111. We were watching Guardians of the Galaxy Vol 2. There is this green insect humanoid alien called Mantis that gets called ugly by one of the main characters all throughout the movie. While watching I said something along the lines of PFF, I don't even think she's ugly. I actually find her damn sexy. My GF chuckled and didn't react any further. I didn't think for a second that this was a stupid thing to say. After all, that's a fictional alien-like creature in a movie. Well, on the next day she called me and said she didn't like the comment and it made her feel weird. We haven't been exclusive for all too long and she doesn't like me admiring other women like that. I thought that was kinda childish at first and said okay, I'm sorry about that. But why does this upset you? I mean, she is a fictional character. Even if not, you do know that you are not the only beautiful woman in existence, do you? I don't know why these things come to my head and why I speak them before realizing how stupid it is. Now she is pissed. TLDR, reminded my GF that there are other beautiful women out there and now she's pissed. Edit, we talked about it, the issue is resolved and it was not a big deal. TIFU by thinking I'd kicked food poisoning sput, by user Hufflehugs. I am the dumbest person alive. Last week I apparently ate something that was contaminated. Spent 8 hours on Thursday, starting at 3 AM, puking out my digestive system 3 to 4 times every hour. Slept on the bathroom floor when I could. It really sucked. Well, today is Tuesday. I figured, surely, by now, especially since I haven't thrown up since Thursday morning, I'm fine. Everything is fine. Sure, my stomach's been a little upset, but that's anxiety about getting sick again. What better way to celebrate my victory, I decided, than a big bowl of chocolate cereal in the car on the way to class while my dad drives. Ha, 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 laughs my digestive system. You fool. And yes, I am the fool. 40 minutes before my first exam of the day starts and my stomach is trying to escape from its mortal flesh prison. I have learned my lesson. I'm never eating food again. I wish I was never born. TLDR, had food poisoning last week. Thought I was okay. Celebrated with chocolate cereal. Am not okay. Wish I did not exist. Never eating food again. Edit, I took my exams and came back to see that my GI system isn't the only thing exploding LMFAO. Glad y'all got a laugh from this. Take care of yourselves. No more cereal for me for the next bit and I'll be seeing my doctor next Tuesday. Hopefully shit doesn't hit the fan again. Ha, ha. TIFU by vacuum sealing my clothes for a trip and not being able to get them back into my carry-on after the TSA agent made me cut them all open, by user oldhouse98. Title is pretty self-explanatory. But backstory. I wanted to fit everything into a carry-on for a quick trip. I thought I was being a real smart guy by taking the time to vacuum seal all my clothing. Why doesn't everybody do this? I thought to myself. It took me hours to properly fold everything and seal it all and I spent like $20 on the bags. It never occurred to me that the airport agents would make me cut them all open. I thought they had X-ray scanners for that stuff. They made me cut open every single bag and then my clothing was 3 times the size of my carry-on by the time they were done. I said to them, I guess you guys get this all the time, and one guy said, no, not really. Everyone was looking at me like I was an idiot. I had to buy a bigger piece of luggage for a lot of money and then check my bag at the gate. So yeah, LPT, don't vacuum seal your clothing for carry-on bags. TLDR, vacuum sealed my clothes in a carry-on and had to cut them all open at the airport and felt like an idiot. Update, wow. Thanks for all the likes and comments. The two most popular comments seem to be why didn't I use a Ziploc bags? Well, I had no idea they existed first off, but even if I had, I wouldn't have had a way to re-vacuum the bags. I actually used a food saver to seal these, not a vacuum cleaner. I thought, again, I was being really smart by using my kitchen food saver to seal everything. This is what cost me so much money because food saver bags are not cheap and I used 2 entire rolls. The other question people are asking is how I intended to get the stuff home. The short answer, which I posted in more depth below, is that I intended to buy a suitcase at my destination from a designer store that was not available in my city, and then I planned to check my bag on the way back. I realize how dumb this all is now, especially using food saver bags. Looking back on it, I think the TSA agents thought I was a total idiot. Like I said, everyone was looking at me. I also had to carry half my clothing through the airport until I found luggage to buy, which I paid 2x the price for versus Amazon. Lesson learned. TIFU by being very proud I wasn't addicted to smoking, by user Leonilat. I grew up in Eastern Europe where smoking was very much cool. So as teenagers, we would buy a pack of smokes and go for it. All my friends eventually turned into pretty regular smokers, except me. I could take it or leave it. This was when I was 16. Fast forward, I am 23, and smoking socially in my heavy smoker friend group. One of my friends starts saying how she wants to quit and is finding it very difficult. I retire by saying I am literally not addicted to smoking even though I've been smoking since I was 16. I can go days without it with not so much as a withdrawal symptom. I brag about it for a solid 10 minutes, how I just have a non-addictive personality and that probably, addiction is very psychological for her. Maybe she should try nicotine patches or working with a therapist to overcome this issue. I finish my snobbish speech, dramatically light a cigarette and take a drag. My friend just stares at me for a minute and says, "You do know you need to inhale when you take a drag, right?" Everyone laughs for a solid 5 minutes. I don't understand why. And it suddenly hits me. I haven't been inhaling for 8 years. I was smoking without actually inhaling the smoke. No shit, I wasn't addicted, cause I was just putting smoke in my mouth and puffing it out. I wasted hundreds of dollars on cigarettes. I hid from my parents. I snuck around. For nothing. I never even smoked. Half win for not being a smoker. Big EFF up for being a smart ass. People make fun of me to this day, I mean, this ob happened today, /s. TLDR, I went on a righteous spiel about how even though I smoke I am not addicted to smoking. Turns out I never actually inhaled any smoke in the 8 years that I was a smoker. Baby edit, as is, usual on this sub, this didn't exactly, per se, happen today, mods don't ban me I just remembered this story and wanted to share. For all of you concerned, both I and the friend in question quit smoking a while back. Me shortly after this incident, her a few months later. And yes, even though I was a dick, she's still my friend. Love you, P. Baby edit 2, today I learned that even if you don't inhale, you get the nicotine hit through the mouth. That puts so much into perspective, makes so much more sense why I continued to smoke how I did for as long as I did. Never too old to learn.